Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, we can do better than that.
Yeah, we gotta do better.
Good afternoon, everybody. Much better. Thank you. So welcome to the Reversing the Pipeline, Creating Pathways from Prison to Campus and Careers panel. There are school districts throughout the nation that embrace policies that facilitate the school to prison pipeline. The pipeline begins with the underfunding of public schools, often in the very communities that need those schools the most. They lack the adequate resources to properly staff those schools and educate and support the students that are in their care. It relies upon a police presence at schools and a punitive approach to disciplinary issues, often for minor infractions that pushes kids out of the classroom and into the carceral system. BIPOC students and students with disabilities are disproportionately impacted by this pipeline. Access to high-quality liberal arts education, like the kind that's offered by the Emerson Prison Initiative, has the potential to reverse that pipeline by creating community and a space of healing in the classroom, and pathways to college degrees, careers, and robust reentry supports for students and alumni who are released from prison. Today, I have the pleasure of having the best job at this conference. I get to reflect on the transformative power of college and prison with three of EPI's esteemed alumni. I will briefly introduce each one of our panelists, all of whom were trailblazers as part of our first cohort of students. I won't get into which cohort is the best, though I know cohort 1 students have a very strong perspective on this. So,
What do you mean it's not fit?
I know. So I'm going to introduce the students, and then I'm going to turn things over to them. They will tell you a little bit about themselves and what having access to college and prison meant to them and to their reentry. After they share some of their reflections, I will ask them each a few questions, and then we will open up things to all of you, to the audience, for question and answers. So first to speak today will be Charles Rosario. Charlie earned his bachelor's degree. Yes. Charlie earned his bachelor's degree while he was incarcerated at MCI Concord in 2022, and he's the first alum to join EPI's staff as our program coordinator. Then we will hear from Kevin Keogh. Kevin also completed his BA at MCI Concord. See, I told you, this is the best job. Right. And now he works for the Transformational Prison Project as a restorative justice facilitator and circle keeper. And then finally, we'll hear from Siraaj Abdulnur. Siraaj started his degree. Siraaj started his degree while he was incarcerated at MCI Concord, and he finished his degree at Emerson's Boston campus last May. Okay, so we're going to start things off with Charlie. So Charlie, please share some reflections and introduce yourself.
Sure. How's everybody doing tonight?
Make sure you use the microphone.
Well, today, it's not night yet. It's still day. No, it's an honor to be here. My name is Charles Rosario. Like Kara just said, the program coordinator for the EPI program. For me, it's come full circle. I graduated from the program in 2022, and I never thought that I'd be in this position working at Emerson College and being part of the staff, helping give guys, the same opportunity that I had that changed my life dramatically. I'm truly honored. I've been home for, it's going on 2 years now. It's been like going on 22 months, and time is flying by just because I'm so busy every day is something. But, I'm honored. When I first came home, I built a partnership with this organization called UTech before I came home. I was in part of this program, mentor program inside, and I was mentoring emerging adults from 18 to 25. So when I came home, that same program offered me a job, right? So I took the job, and they had me as a frontline, like, violence interrupter, going into neighborhoods that were gang infested, you know, going to court, you know, supporting guys that had court cases and trying to talk to the probation officers to see if they would do diversion programs so that they wouldn't lock them up. They would refer them to our program so that we could actually give them education and give them things to do, give them jobs and skills. So I did that for a while, and I was really passionate about that work, and I thought I was gonna be there for a while, but then Emerson came calling, and they were like, we have a new position that opened up. And it tugged at me because I was really passionate and invested in that job, and that's something that I wanted to do, but I'm just as passionate and invested in education as well. So I took this job just because I felt like the people that I would be impacting with the population that I would be impacting is directly linked to me. Like, I feel like I am still a part of EPI, and I feel like those guys in there are an extension of me, and I'm an extension of them. So for me, this is really like a special moment that, you know, EPI gave me the opportunity to be a part of that staff, and it's been an honor, and I'm blessed. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Kevin, you're up next.
All right, I'm up next. My name is Kevin. I've been home for a year now. Yeah, I'm one of those, like, well, one of my friends was just up here earlier talking about, you know, incarcerating children. I went to prison when I was 16, and I was sentenced to die there. If it wasn't for certain laws and everything to change, I wouldn't be here with you today. And that's why I'm still, like the gravity of just sitting in this space right now is like, technically, I'm not even supposed to be here. So, like, just being here, I had to make sure I had to bring one of my friends here with me, my mentors. You know, he's still behind the wall, you know, so I'm, like, absolutely happy to be here. But, like, so for my journey, and then everything I went through, especially from inside, like, I had imposter syndrome since day one. I was like, when I was in the classroom, or even when I applied for EPI, I was like, I'm not supposed to be in this room. I'm like, everybody's smarter than me. Everybody got their lives figured out, you know what I mean? They learning how to navigate. I was still trying to figure out who I was as a human being. But being a part of EPI and having professors like Kara and Manisha and, you know, Wendy's in the house too, but like, and just like seeing me as for who I am and seeing me struggling, like almost every single class I wanted to quit. I'm like, I'm out of here. I was like, I'm gonna just go back to the block. I'm gonna just do whatever I'm gonna do. I'm gonna still keep gangbanging. I'm just keep just existing, you know, just surviving day to day. But going to class every single day gave me purpose, gave me confidence of who I am, to be able to speak my truth and use my voice. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yo, I never really thought my voice mattered. And it is seeing how much it is just being present and just being there. Consistency, how our professors showed up in and out, no matter what, like, just the love in general is just phenomenal. So, like, my first day out, I think like 24 hours, I think Betsy came to see me right away. They was like, you don't got an ID. We got to go get that right away. I was like, good looking. Nope. Because I didn't know how to do it. I don't know how to self-advocate, man. But just having that, and just having these people with me is my biggest support, and it's probably why, you know, I didn't go back. I mean, like, I'm still here, and I know that people love me, you know, because that's the biggest thing. Like, being in there, you're like, hey, ain't nobody really see you, but these people coming in here day in, day out, you know, and just seeing you, and then helping us, you know, build the community we built in there, and still out here, our community's still here, you know. We're all here right now supporting each other, and I love it, and I see it. And I appreciate everybody being here. So, you know, like, that's it. EPI saved my life, you know? Thank you.
All right, next we have Siraaj.
Yes, I'm Siraaj. First and foremost, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here. So we want to give it up for y'all for showing up and supporting us, right? So I've been home for a little more than a year and a half. And I'm currently making strides and making progress in life every single day, right? So not to parrot something that Kevin said or Charlie had said before me, but it all ends up being a similar story of love and support. I did 16 years in prison. I went in at 18. when you're under them circumstances, unfortunately, your bonds with your real family, tend to go away. I still have a loving and supporting family, but you become very close to the people around you, like these brothers here, right? So we weren't just, some of us were friends before EPI, but we became even closer after it, right? So we were in those classes day in and day out, studying, doing the work, wanting to quit, supporting each other, making sure that we don't quit, and making sure that we rose to the occasion every single time so that we can be on a panel like this speaking in front of you guys, right? And we're changing our lives, and we're making sure that we will never go back, and we're changing other people's lives, and that's all possible through education.
Thank you, everybody. So I will start by asking Charlie a question. Charlie, you finished your degree at MCI Concord, and now, as we said, you're the first alum to work for EPI. How do you see your role as program coordinator in terms of supporting students and alumni as they transition home, and how do you help them navigate the complexities of reentry?
Thank you for that question. That's a really good question. For me, I see myself as the program coordinator for EPI. I see myself helping guys, mainly because I just went through the same transition, and in many ways I am still going through my own transition, just in a different place or a different level than guys just coming home. But I did 19 years, and this wasn't my first, rodeo with the justice system or injustice system. Since an adolescent, I've been getting, incarcerated. Been through the Department of Youth Services programs, adolescent services for a long time before I graduated to the adult system. So for me, it was something that, like, the identity of being a criminal or being criminalized, I internalized that, right? Through a lot of things that I was experiencing, whether it was school, whether it was the police, the system itself. There's a lot of different things that I felt that were, sending messages to me that I was a criminal, and I internalized that, right, as an identity. But, finding myself incarcerated and having the opportunity to go to EPI, like, it did a lot to transform and open my mind up and get me to see things a lot different, And then coming home, benefiting myself from the resources of EPI, and now being in a position that I could actually help other guys benefit from those same resources. I'm actually networking and talking with certain organizations and leaders of, different organizations that they want to help EPI. So I'm putting EPI on their list of referring agencies so that I could start referring the guys that are coming home to benefit from services as well that weren't there before I got the job, right? So these are things that are very important. Housing is something that is very important. I myself navigated that, and I was getting denied for all of my housing stuff, or whether it was lack of credit, whether it was because of my criminal record, because of lack of employment, not being able to show that I was employed. All these things were all barriers for my housing, and I had to learn how to navigate that. Being able to navigate that, I learned skills and learned different ways on how to navigate that. That guys that are coming home, I could give them that advice. I could help them. I could give them tips on, do it this way, don't do it that way, right? Another thing as well is that we have mass health afforded to us, food stamps afforded to us, things like that when we first come home. The minute we start working and start actually showing that we, have the initiative to do for ourselves, they immediately start taking those services away, right? So now being in the position of program coordinator for EPI and being in charge of the Recoup program, our reentry wing, I feel like now it's part of my responsibility to try to help connect the guys with the proper resources that may have been denied to me. I was denied RAFT, but other guys coming out after me were able to get RAFT. I'm super happy for them, you know what I mean? And I just want the opportunities that are available to get to the guys that need them. I feel like the ones that are closest to the trauma are the best informed to actually make a difference. Not saying that nobody else can, I just feel like we are the best. We know it most intimately, and I know one of my brothers said it earlier, so for me, I feel like I'm in perfect position to help guys come home, and if I'm feeling like I don't have the capability in that particular situation to help, I could tap on other people, amazing people. We have Betsy, who helped me with my transition, and she's still on the team. She's amazing. So I feel super supported in this job, and I feel super supported in my position to help the guys, and it's an honor for me to do it.
Thank you, Charlie. Kevin, you were released about a year ago, and you're now working for the Transformational Prison Project. How did completing your bachelor's degree help prepare you for your role at TPP?
How did it help me prepare for my role at TPP? To be honest, it was helping me community build, learning how to network, not just thinking, what a job title confide you to, but just seeing what I can do outside of the box. Because I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a media literature culture degree from Emerson College when I get out? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, he's another. But I'm like, you know what? Let's not be constrained to what a degree can do for people. But, you can make your degree do in a sense. So it's like, I had to just learn it, and then being in there, you learn how to do things outside the box, because you have to survive. You're navigating prison, you're navigating school, then you're navigating just every other little thing that you have to do just because life is there, And then to be honest, that's the biggest thing, learning how to just to think. You know what I mean? Because you think there's instructions and everything, but it's not. And then Emerson showed me you have to be able to adapt and to be ready to ask for help for the most part, because I knew when I was struggling, I'm like, damn, I don't want to go ask nobody for no help, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go ask for help, And y'all was always ready for me, everybody in my cohort, the professors, was ready to be there for me. And I know, being a part of TVP, we're an organization, but at the end of the day, we're a family. We take care of each other. We make sure we're okay inside of work, outside of work, and that's the biggest thing. It's always about community building, and that doesn't stop. That's 24/7. So that's the biggest thing.
Okay.
And can you follow up, Kevin, by just saying a little bit about what it means to be a circle keeper and a restorative justice facilitator for TPP?
It really kind of, it gave me a sense of crazy purpose since I got out. Because at first I was like, I'm scared of getting out of prison. I'm like, this is where I've been since I was a kid. I know what I can expect in there, but out here it's like, what am I gonna do? Everything that I thought I was gonna do is all theory. I haven't applied it yet. All the changes that I have is all in my mind. I haven't walked out and did anything yet. So walking out and then off the rip, getting a job with TPP and automatically going back into the same spaces I was already in while incarcerated, running circles with my friends and new people, introducing them to restorative justice practices and, addressing harms and everything. But being out here and actually doing it and going to places where I was as a kid and working with kids that are in the same position I was at that, and just being able to build with them literally is it breaks my heart, but also keeps it together at the same time. But it's like when you think about hope, you know what I mean? How much you need it, but how much it hurts still, but you gotta have it. And just having it, it's it's always letting me know that I have more work to do. I'm never gonna be settled, but I just got more work to do.
Thank you, Kevin. So Siraaj, you were the second EPI student to finish your degree on the Boston campus, an accomplishment we're all really, really proud of. Can you tell us what the transition was like from college inside to college outside?
It sounds like such a simple question, but it's not. All right, so being in prison, right? Prison is a very predictable environment. It's a system. It's programming. You know what's going to happen the next day, right? So it's between rec time and child time and lock-in time, right? It's a bunch of the same stuff over and over, right? A lot of monotony, recursive, redundancy. However, you do have randomness and maybe outbreaks of violence or sporadic moments of peace and learning, right? So pretty much doing the same thing every day, like Groundhog's Day. You're on the hamster wheel, right? You're not really living life. You're learning, you're growing older, but you're in a moment of stasis. So being released, being an EPI student, I had questions about what it's gonna look like with my transition on campus. Asked some of the staff. They prepare you as much as they can, but ultimately you're the one going through that process. I'm gonna date myself. I know I look young, but I'm gonna reference a movie called Encino Man. Now, I don't know if anybody's heard of that, right? Now, I would say that I'm a little more handsome than the caveman in that movie, and smarter than him, definitely. But I felt like I was him, right? So I come to the campus. I had a little buffer because I went to Bunker Hill for one class. I had to take a language class to do that, and that's kind of it was a little more. The ease in acclimating there was a little easier than acclimating on the campus here because I was there with more people my age, adults, a lot of people who looked like me. So it was sort of like people who were living a real life, working, and then going there part-time, right? When I had to come to Emerson, listen, it was a culture shock, right? I went from prison, Bunker Hill, to this elite establishment with a bunch of free thinkers and creative people, right? So let's give it up for them. But I was 34 years old, and I'm in the classroom, with people ranging from like 18 to like 20. I wasn't really in the class with seniors, so they had a different way of thinking from me, a different reality from me. And, the commonality was that they were all here to learn, and they were all great people, but it was just a weird transition and just to relate to them, because on a lot of different things we could not relate, right? So I had to adult for the first time. I went in at 18, didn't really have much of an adult experience. I'm out here juggling work, finding housing, and doing schoolwork, right? And just getting there on time every day, staying sane, staying focused, and just juggling all the realities of life, right? And during that process, I actually lost my mother, right? And it's crazy because this past weekend was the anniversary of her death. I visited her grave. I carry her with me. She's with me in spirit and physically on this necklace. But I told myself, with support of the EPI staff and my brothers and my cohort and everything, that I'm gonna get my degree, right? Just had to finish the semester. I'm gonna walk across that stage. She passed, a month and a half before graduation type stuff, right? It was crazy. But I'm like, I'm not gonna stop. I still have to do the work. I have to accomplish this goal, not only for myself, but for her. So I did that. I had a lot of support, walked across that stage, did my thing. Now I'm the proud holder of a bachelor's degree in media culture literature from Emerson.
Siraaj, can you tell us a little bit more about some of the ways that EPI's Reentry and College Outside program, or RECOUP, helped you with that transition to the Boston campus?
There was no limits. There were no limits. Sometimes I'm calling people very early in the morning, sometimes late at night. But we have all of you guys are superheroes. It's the Avengers, it's the Justice League all combined into one, right, I like to say. A lot of names to name, and there's somebody in front of me, Betsy, and she. Yeah.
Betsy.
Not to single anybody out because everybody's equally important and powerful in their own rights, but she's the go-to woman. She's a Swiss Army knife, right? She's the break-in case of emergency glass, right? She'll get you. Yeah, it's broken a lot. It's not even. Whether that was helping me find an apartment, linking me with other programs, trying to help me find employment if I needed it. At the time, as I mentioned, it was kind of hard for me to integrate into with the students at first, and there was no real reason. It was just me getting acclimated to the culture. I would hang out in the office, the EPI office with the staff, right? I'm a little older than the average student on campus, so I think they thought I was staff because I was hanging out in the office so much, and they would treat me that way. It was like, all right. I would have conversations with her, I don't even have friends. You guys are my friend. And so those are laughs, but she helped me out with everything, whether it was applying for RAFT or, as I said, looking for employment, housing, just the shoulder to lean on and the ear to listen if I needed to vent or speak about something or find information on something. So Kara, same way. Manisha, same way. Every single one of the, on the EPI staff, and now including my brother Charlie, fills those roles and handles those needs if you need it. So they, I didn't have a lot of like adulting skills, so you know they directed me towards other programs. We also had what was the Brandeis?
Oh, the Brandeis Initiative.
Yeah, between them and another organization that we deal with upon being released, they helped us with like different skills, going to get a bank account, going to get your ID, your license, all of those type of things. So very important, integral to my success upon release moving forward.
And Siraaj, you had a job on campus too, right? Were you working for the Social Justice Collective and Hive?
Yeah, so they introduced me to a couple people at the SJC, Social Justice Collaborative, and I met a wonderful woman named Crystal that's a part of that organization, and I actually spearheaded and became the founder of my own organization called the Parvenu Fresh Hip Hop Empowerment Program, where, you know, my goal is to teach youth skills and give them a safe place just to be themselves. And they walked me through a lot of different things and just taught me the structure of creating your own organization. So it was doing meaningful work and learning meaningful skills there.
Thank you, Siraaj. So I'm going to go back to you, Kevin. We know that the over-policing of schools and the lack of access to high-quality education, amongst other factors like poverty, can increase the likelihood of incarceration. So how do you think having access to college inside can help reverse the school-to-prison pipeline?
Having education while you're inside is, like I say it a lot to a lot of the fellas and everything, especially the people I speak to for the most part about higher education. It's naming all the things that we knew were happening in our communities, like all the myths and the conspiracy theories, the boogeyman, you know what I mean? Thinking like they're always out to get us. They're actually out there to get us. You know what I mean? We're learning like about how poverty's perpetuated in our neighborhoods, how, you know, like how there's the false sense of meritocracy. You work hard enough, you're gonna get there. No, absolutely not. I was a firm believer in that at one point, but it's not. But then you just start seeing how systems are just made just to oppress. And especially the biggest thing I learned that is everything's political, no matter what. I know everybody in the joint was just like me saying, yo, nah, I don't care about politics. Well, politics dictate our lives, no matter what it is, you know, and you have to be informed. So having the education and learning that, you know, I always think about the story we read, Plato's Allegory of the Cave. You know how when you start getting knowledge and you start seeing the light, you go out and you got to come back, and then, you know, you have to readjust. But at the end of the day, that's what I feel like a lot of us that are back in our communities, even when we walked out of classrooms, we were just translators of what we learned in the classrooms and bringing it to our people that were incarcerated. They didn't have the opportunity to make it into those classrooms like we did. Like when Manisha was talking about how we would be in the yard, we used to argue about what was on TMZ. Now we're arguing about Foucault, you know, talking about poetry, talking about different concepts and theories that control our lives that we know it's there. We just didn't know how to name it. Or even if we did, we didn't have the right words and the language for the most part. And I remember being in our first class in orientation with Manisha. She said, you know, I'm here to help you fill up your toolbox. Whatever you want to do with your toolbox is on you. And that's what we did. Every single classroom, even when we didn't understand it, we had conversations with one another, you know? And it was like, we weren't being like hoarders or monopolizing on the knowledge that we learned. We shared it. Everything we read, we was like, here, you don't understand it, let's have a conversation. You know what I mean? And that was the biggest thing about, there's a lot to say I hate about Concord, but that's one thing I loved about Concord. Having Emerson come in there and showing us, giving us, allowing us to have this light that we were out there to walk back out and just distribute it. You know what I mean? And I know a bunch of my friends understand that, because when we was in there, it was just the slums of the slums. It was the worst joint there. That's why it's closed now, but, you know, we did our best to maintain it, and it was just, if it wasn't for like you guys and then just us doing it, and even, you know, shout out to Dennis too, man, making it easier for us, man. But hey.
Yeah, you look.
Just,
you know,
Dennis was the head teacher at MCI Concord when we were there.
he was more than that. He was the big homie. But yeah. I don't want to get you fired. I'll take that back. But so that's it.
Okay. I thought I'd actually open that question up to Charlie and Siraaj too, if you have anything to reflect on in terms of how having access to college inside can help reverse the school to prison pipeline.
So I feel like the school to prison pipeline, right? There's a concerted effort. You know, these superstructures conspire, right, to create a system that will run itself, and actually they could just stand back and not even have to, physically do anything. I feel like the system right now is in a cycle that it just runs itself, and we continue to perpetuate what it is that the system wants us to continue to perpetuate to keep us in there, right? So I feel like to combat that, you need just as much of a concerted effort to decolonize the mind, to decondition us from believing that we can accomplish, whatever we want to set our minds to. And because for so long we've received that message, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not one message, and it's not one class. I just feel like there needs to be just as strong of a concerted effort from the community, from society, that wants to see those ill effects reversed and done away with, right? Access to college, it shouldn't be something that, is only afforded to certain people. It shouldn't be that if you come out of prison now, you can no longer have, an education. If you're gonna have a second chance, it should be a real second chance, not a second chance with an asterisk. Because what type of second chance is that really? You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of guys are coming home, and, we have the barrier of being a felon, the barrier of a lot of us went, to prison really young and don't have, skills that are transferable in the workplace. For me, in this job, for as much as insight, wisdom, experience that I bring to the position, one area that I struggled in is administratively. Like, my learning curve was in learning how to do Excel, learning how to do, navigate the email system properly so that I'm not wasting 20, 30 minutes trying to do one simple thing that somebody that knows how to navigate that would do in 2 minutes, right? And that is another, barrier as well, because I have to struggle now with my confidence. Oh, am I cut out for this? Like, this is already a space that was created, and, and it's like, there's symbolic violence in there where I don't really see myself in a lot of these spaces, right? So I'm already combating with that. But then not being able to do the job right, or struggling with it, that's another hurdle, you know what I mean? And that's another thing that, I feel like these are things that we need to start teaching the guys that are home. Like, it's gone in a good direction, a lot of programs now with college, but I feel like we need to be civically, educated so that we know how to come out and, like he said, adulting. He never knew how to adult. Come home and know how to navigate those things. Something simple as filling out an application, something simple as filling out a W-9 form, something simple as knowing how to put a signature on a document on your phone. Like, these things are super important that a lot of people out here know, that a lot of guys coming home don't know. You know what I mean? And just learning it, why not learn it while we're sitting in prison? You know what I mean? So that's another conversation for another day. But I do feel like, EPI is fairly new, but we are making a lot of strides, and we're helping a lot of people, and, EPI is amazing.
Charlie. Siraaj, did you have anything to add on how having access to college inside can help reverse the pipeline?
I do not support terrorist actions, but I do in one case. The school to prison pipeline needs to be dismantled. Let's blow it up. Let's blow it up, right? We're going to reverse that and make that the education to success pipeline. Not just in prison, but in the streets before people have the chance to go to prison. Teach them young and teach them for real, right? So the education I was afforded by EPI in prison was transformational, and it was wonderful. It was amazing. Education is a portal to the wider world, and that portal leads to power, right, and success, and just being able to operate in the real world. We were operating in pockets. We were operating on streets, corners, and blocks, and we didn't have real skills. We didn't believe in ourselves, and we were destroying our communities. We weren't building them up. We weren't protecting anybody. We were hurting people, even if that wasn't physically. We were a part of the problem, right? Because we were ignorant and didn't have education. But education, and the one I was afforded to specifically by EPI, helped me to understand myself better, helped me to be able to identify with my brothers better, identify with the community better, and to think more, right? So it wasn't that we had zero skills or we had zero talent. We just didn't necessarily recognize that. And as Charlie said, we identified with being a criminal. We thought that was something to be cool, or a badge of honor, or whatever, but that comes from ignorance. And you don't have a sense of agency or choice because you were never taught to act upon that. But when we stepped in that classroom, we weren't prisoners. It wasn't about our W number. We would want to go back to class because it was a free place to think, to learn, to share your ideas, to challenge each other, and to grow. And we became better people for it. So prison education in prison is needed. It's 100% necessary to change people's minds, to turn people into the weapons that they need to become for the fight and for the right cause. No more negativity, positivity, and success.
Charlie, my last question is for you. So Emerson is a liberal arts college. We have a focus on communication and the arts. While you were a student inside, you took an acting class. Mm-hmm. What did it mean to you to have access to a course like that?
What did it mean to me? So, yeah. I always wanted to be a movie star, right? So,
Yeah.
So I finally got the opportunity when I took Lindsay's class. But Lindsay's class was dope, but it was crazy at first because she had a lot of exercises that were supposedly to prepare us to act, but I thought she was just pranking us and having us do a lot of stupid stuff just to laugh at us and go home and just catch wreck on us. Because it was a lot of crazy stuff. She had us acting like a paper. How do you act like a paper clip?
Yeah,
How do you act like a refrigerator? You know what I mean? Like, and she would do that on the spot. She'd be like, all right, walk around. And we'd all just walk around. Act like a pumpkin. And the best pumpkin actor, you know, yeah.
Right.
That was Mac.
pumpkin right there.
Mac was the best pumpkin.
How do you become a pumpkin?
It's Mac Washington right there.
Yeah. But that's an example of something that I would have never had the opportunity to do had it not been for, like, going to an acting class while I was incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? Like, that opportunity opened up my world for the arts. Like, I was a little bit autistic when I was young. I used to rap. So for me, that was my artistic expression. But, you know, a lot of things happened in my life and took a lot of the passion away from that. And then, but I rediscovered my passion for arts. It didn't happen through poetry, even though I like rap, right? Because poetry was a little different. Shakespeare, they use language that, I don't even know if that really makes sense. Like, a lot of people saying, this is fantastic poetry, but how do I know? I can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think they're pulling one over on us. I don't think they're that good, to be honest with you. But that's just my opinion. But when it came to acting, right, it was different because, like, I'm using myself as the instrument. You know what I mean? And whatever I conjure up in my mind, I can make manifest. You know what I mean? And that's something that I carry with me every single day. Like, I try to manifest whatever it is that I feel, you know, is my elevation. You know, every single day. Something that prison taught me is how to self-develop, right? We become autodidacts in prison. We teach ourselves. And knowledge of self was a quest that I went on when I became incarcerated because, you know, I was fortunate enough to have older people in my life that were privileged to a certain, you know, certain set of information that was meant to uplift you as a person, right? And I fully embraced that, and that's what it did for me. It gave me knowledge of self. I found out who my ancestors were, things that I wasn't, you know, learning from before that. All of these things. So for me, the arts was something that I rediscovered, you know what I mean? Because I had lost my passion for that. You know, I felt like I was all like, what is it, left brain or right brain when you're all just analytical? I started becoming like too analytical. But then, but EPI had a lot to do with that because then I wasn't looking at TV the same. I was breaking down commercials. I was breaking down movies, all these things that they taught us in these classes about how to actually break it down. But the arts and acting, it gave me an outlet that is an expression, of myself. And I enjoy it. I think Lindsay was a great acting professor. I think she did her thing. And and it goes to show because at the end when we all performed, we all blew each other away with how good of a job we did. All of us were blown away. And we didn't see that happening because while we were rehearsing and doing our parts, we was like, this might be a disaster. But when we did it, I feel like we all just rose to the challenge. You know what I'm saying? We all dug deep. And another thing too is that type of work, like acting and stuff like that, you really have to lower your inhibitions. We're all inhibited, especially in prison. We're all tough guys, right? We all got this mask on, this armor. But in that class, and it was a good point that we did it, because if you did it too soon and we ain't really developed the bonds that we had at that point, I don't think it would have went the same way.
No, it wouldn't.
I don't think it would have went the same way. But because we had already had a few years under our belt of working together and we had started to build that bond, it was a lot more comfortable for us to just let those inhibitions go, dig deep within ourselves, and just express ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And that for me, the acting class was dope because of that. So thank you, Lindsay, for bringing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Siraaj and Kevin, did you want to comment on a class that you had inside that was particularly impactful?
Oh, damn.
I'm just throwing that one on you. So that was a surprise question for Kara.
I loved every single, I'm not even gonna lie, every single class was amazing, right? I will give you a class, but I'm glad we didn't have a choice in it because there was so many that I would have been like, no, I'm not taking that class. But I think the first one was, the first class that really caught me by surprise and that I loved was Josh Poster's class, the theater class. I'm like, what are we doing a theater class for? But then with that class, just learning how you can use an art form to address the injustices of society. We was breaking down the World Expo, how they were using it, and how they were doing strategic things to just I don't know, just promote. I think at that time it was promoting white supremacy or whatever it may be, but also how we were breaking down Uncle Tom's Cabin and different vaudevilles and minstrels and just seeing it. I thought it was just for entertainment. Be no, it's addressing the society and history in that moment. And then we're looking back at it yo, they were really fighting. And then now that when I watch certain shows and things, I'm like, how is this addressing society today with all the different type of dystopias and all this? And I was like, that right there helped me just understand every single thing, not judge any different medium that you can use anything to deliver your message no matter what it is, and everything is being used to address something. You know what I mean? Either to promote or not. And so it just opening that third eye in a sense and be yo, everything's political, and then just seeing it. But that was just one of the dopest classes. So appreciate that one.
Was it media criticism that we had?
Which one? Eric Gordon?
Eric Gordon, yeah, that was a good class.
It was Miranda Banks?
It was a hard class.
Yeah,
That media criticism.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite classes was media criticism with Professor Miranda Banks. And as Charlie said, and as Kevin just said, having this education gave us the tools to be able to analyze what media is doing. It is not just entertainment. It is actually presenting messages to the people to sway you one way or the other. And in the media criticism class, that was probably the easiest class for me because I didn't know that I naturally disseminated the information that the media gives you, but I was dissecting it naturally, right? And I remember something my classmates were well, how do you know this? And I'm I don't know how I know it. I don't. But thinking back, it's watching TV, right? We're programmed as youth, right? So from watching MTV or maybe Nickelodeon or BET or HBO or whatever you're coming up watching, you're learning things as a youth that you're not even understanding that you're learning, right? So to be an adult and to have the tools in the toolbox to understand that, they're selling me something. They're selling me, an ideology. I can choose to not take that ideology because now I understand what they're doing, right? So that was a favorite class because it was under the guise of like entertainment, but it was actually education.
So now it's time to open it up to the audience for questions. And so if you have something that you'd like to ask, I just ask that you speak into the microphone so the folks on the live stream can hear you.
You know what I'm going to ask. I can never pass up this question, but I volunteer with the prison book program down in Quincy, and we send books to prisoners. And I'm always thinking, Malcolm X said, that people don't realize that a person's whole life can be changed by just one book. And so whenever I send out books, I'm always thinking, I'm looking for that impactful book that could change somebody's life. So whenever I get in a room with a bunch of returned citizens like you guys, I got to ask you, was there a particular book that you can identify that had that kind of an impact on you? It might have it on somebody else.
I can go first. Mine was Power. From Manisha's class. Power, I think it's a reader. That book, it changed my life because I did not understand what I was reading. I had a dictionary the whole time, and I'm looking at my roommate, Alex, the whhole time. I'm like, yo, bro, what's this word mean? He just throws a dictionary at me. I'm like, I don't know what I'm reading. I'm like, why are they using so many big words just to say that one thing? So we're reading, Robert Dahl, Barack and Baraz, Michel Foucault, and all these different power theorists and all these structural political science jargon. And this is our first class. This is our first class. I've never written an essay in my life. I've never cited anything in my life. And I'm like, what am I doing here? I was like, I want to quit. I was like, but that book changed my life because Kara's the one that said it later on, that it started to make sense. She's like, even if you don't understand it now, you're going to understand it later. And the whole time when I was reading it, I didn't think I remembered anything. But then when I look back at it, I can be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And that's why I was like, go back to that, because that was where the beginning, where I was like, I'm quitting, I'm out of here. See you later. You know what I mean? But that book really changed my life. And then I don't know if for the good or not, but the jury's still out. But that book changed my life. What was it? Power?
Power.
It was like an anthology. Yeah. Don't pick it up.
You need a thesaurus in a dictionary.
Read that for real.
Want to go?
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm an avid reader, so it's kind of hard to narrow one down. But let's say it's called Pre-EPI. It's a book called The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. And that was a book that just opened my eyes. It's about the CIA and a black guy joining the CIA and then them hiring him to be in the mailroom and to do copies, right? And they're thinking like black people are, all the tropes and prejudices against black people, that they're not gonna know anything, so they just hire him for quota purposes. However, this guy's like an accomplished, educated, very accomplished man, and he ends up copying all of the top secret documents, and then they end up, having a plot against the CIA and whatever. But it was the message of the book is like to be subversive in a good way and just to challenge the system and believe in yourself. So that was something that put me on a path of learning and understanding.
For me, I think the book by George Jackson, Blood in My Eye, is a book that was very, very transformational for me and very powerful to me. I didn't really have the language to break down that book how I wanted to, but I knew he was on to something, right? I had the language to at least know what he was talking about, but I didn't have the language to really dissect what he was saying as good as I wanted to. But I read it a second time, like 12 or 13 years later, and after having taken Power, there was a few different classes that helped me with the language and helped me with the concepts to like break down that book. And reading it a second time, it's like, I was like, oh, shoot, like, you know what I'm saying? It was eye-opening, like really to have the language now to understand what he was saying. And I knew he was talking about it, but to be able, it just did something for me, like it made me feel good about myself. You know what I mean? Now that I'm able to dissect this, now I have the tools to break down this book. And the book is a powerful book, and it spoke to me even early on, because coming into, the system and being system impacted from a very early age, I already had like a revolutionary leaning, right? I had older individuals from my neighborhood that they had that same revolutionary leaning, and they would, give literature and stuff like that to younger guys, to awaken them. But, a lot of us, we just wasn't on that. We didn't think it was cool. We was just running the streets, just doing other stuff. But when you have the time and you're in prison and you really, you have the desire to learn about yourself. I've been a lifelong learner. I love to learn, you know what I mean? So like for me, it wasn't nothing to pick up a book on my own and read it, but not having the language was something that frustrated me. But to be able to develop the language, you know what I'm saying, to break down the book and then have that book even be more powerful to me than it originally was something that was dope.
How about you, Matt? Any other guys that want to chip in?
Black Male Obsolete by Hakeem Mabouti.
Can you say that in the microphone just so everybody can hear you?
Black Male Obsolete by Hakeem Mabouti. In that book, it was much like how Charlie explained. There was a lot of concepts I didn't really understand that he was breaking down, but the one thing that resonated with me when he coined the phrase infracticide, and he explained that there was two ways that young black males was killing themselves. I mean, there was first the suicide way, which you would kill yourself, right? Whether razor or whatever, the direct way. But he said infracticide was when you would put yourself in a set of circumstances in which you knew death should follow. And he explained that our gravitation towards the streets was this self-deprecation where we was gravitating towards that with the idea that we was, going to die. And I could recall distinctly, how many of my friends and myself had really said to ourselves before my incarceration that we weren't going to live out that year, and so it really kind of made me understand that there was something bigger happening, but I just didn't know. But that really led my pursuit to started to read. That book had been with me the first 5 years of my incarceration, sent to me by my father, and I never cracked it open, not one time, until I had that question, which was, why was I so angry?
Yeah, Mac was like one of our first professors before any of y'all they don't know that. And so, all right, so my name is Kentel, and I was in Concord with these gentlemen, so I know them fairly well. And I remember, like, before EPI came, and then when it came, I was like, I don't feel like this is for it. I kind of wanted to get involved with the program, but then I knew I was doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to be doing, so I'm like, I'm gonna crash out anyway, so I didn't sign up for it. And then, so I feel like a lot of the times we talk about like the lack of examples that we have coming up, whether it be in the neighborhoods, whether it be in the institutions, whatever. And so the EPI program comes first, and then I'm cool with Charlie, I'm cool with, I'm trying not to say nicknames. I was cool with Siraaj and Kevin and Mac and David and don't do it. And David and then so I'm seeing them like Kevin spoke on a little bit earlier, coming back to the units, and they're speaking on certain things that they're learning in classes, or they come to the gym, or they come to the yard, and they speak on these different things, and it's kind of inspiring in a way for us on the outside looking in. I always say, like, the higher education in prison experience is like, yo, when it first started, we felt like 1%ers. I was in the Tufts program. I eventually got into the Tufts program, which is called Tuppet, but you feel like a 1%er because now it's like you're part of a small percentage of people that have the privilege to be afforded this education, but then you go back to a population of 1,000, probably almost 1,000, and then now you're like, oh, all right, damn, I feel like an outsider because I'm the only one that. And then, like Kevin said, we become the translators. We take the knowledge, and then we bring it back to the hood. We bring it back to the people. And so, I think my question was for y'all, like being like the pioneers or the first to do the higher education in prison and conquer, like, yo, when is the moment when y'all realize that you were the example and it came with a responsibility that you had to live up to because you were inspiring people who didn't have that opportunity?
All right. I can go first on that. For me, it was just seeing all the guys that knew me when I first came in. And when they see me, they're like, yo, you're different, you're changed, I can't believe it. Like, just, like the whole 10 years of me just doing the most, and then them seeing me, and it's like, they're like, yo, I know what changed you. And they knew it was just education, but also having something to finally live for other than just surviving the day. Like, I gotta make it to class, because I'm like, I know there's a fight gonna break out. I'm like, let me run to class before we get locked behind the door, and then you can see it, and I'm running to all the fellas like, yo, we gotta make it to class, there's about to be a fight. Everybody's just running. You see all of us running away from the fight. And then, you know, so it's like navigating that and then learning how to prioritize, because before I used to be like, let me go see who's fighting. You know, now it's like, nah, I gotta go. And just like, just knowing that, and then also just seeing people, like, seeing the people that went out their way to make sure I was safe in there, like going out their way to make sure I didn't get into the trouble that I could have gotten into while I was doing EPI. And they were like really like making sure I was okay at all times. And that's when I realized, like, yo, there's really a loving community here, even though we're in the most, you know, weird situation of just harm, you know? But we're learning how to take care of each other, and then, like, I see, like, they're sacrificing things for me. And I'm like, I can't mess that up. And also, I know I have to put on for, you know, the people that have faith in me, that come in every single time. You know what I mean? Our professors, our TAs, and, you know, so I knew I had to put on. And I know to this day I still carry that on my shoulders, where I still got to put on, because there's people that didn't have I'm gonna say the privilege of having the same support that I had during my reentry, and they're still struggling after being out for 10 years, and they're like, damn, bro, I see you doing it. I got to figure it out too. And so it's like, it's dope to hear it, but it's also sad, but I know the work ain't done.
It never stops. You said, when was the moment that we realized, I would say EPI started as like a pilot program. 2016, and it wasn't even guaranteed to fully get funding or, you know, become a degree-bearing program. We were just getting credits. So we all took the, so being in Concord, there was nothing there. There were no programs in Concord. It was a wasteland. Right? We were just in there. And then it comes, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm smart, I'll give it a shot. Wrote an essay, got into the pilot program. Eventually it became a degree-bearing program. And I think that was the moment where it was like, nah, I can get something that can change my life. Right? I can walk out of prison with something that means something that's important. It's something that'll give me a shot, you know, in the real world, right? You know, we all have a lot of friends in there, and to answer that question, it's like, when people like Maze, you know, or, you know, Chiron, or some brothers that other people would like consider knuckleheads, and, you know, we're knuckleheads ourselves, but certain other people where, like, even the knuckleheads consider these people knuckleheads. Yeah. And you're like, oh, you're asking me this, and you're coming to me, and you want to learn something? And it's like, nah, that's when I realized that we are an example, because there are people who are watching us daily, and they're seeing that change, and they want to change too. And we would be a disservice to everybody if we just gave up. You know, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations in life, but I think we're built to win. And that was the moment of when it became an official degree-bearing program, and when I was seeing that it not only affected us, it was affecting those around us.
For me, so I was involved with a lot of programs around the same time that EPI came. I know Toastmasters was one of the programs. It played a big part in my life. I know it played a big part in Kentel as well as Kevin, because we were all in the program. We all did it. And the Toastmasters program, it's a public speaking club, and you don't get good time for it. So good time is like, you know, days taken off your sentence for good behavior and things like that. If you do a lot of programs, educational, jobs, they'll take some, you'll get good time, right? Depending on what your sentence is. Toastmasters was a voluntary program. You didn't get no good time for it. So if you were there, that meant you wanted to be there. That meant you wanted to acquire the skills that you could get from taking that program. And I became the president of that program very early on. And it was by mistake. I was trying to joke. I was trying to be a funny guy, right? Because they had votes. And it was like my second day there. And they're like, yeah, well, we need somebody to step up for the president role, because nobody wanted it because of the responsibility. So I was trying to be funny. I'm like, I'll do it. And they were like, the new guy, he's the president. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. You can't put me as the president. I'm new here, right? And they're like, no, you're the president. Everybody vote for him? I vote. They were like, yep, you're the president. Next. And I was like, at that moment, I was like scared, but I was like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take this responsibility, and you know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to start doing that program. So I was tasked to actually grow the program. So early on in that program, like I had like a leadership role where I knew that what I did with that program would impact other people. And then I seen that impact when people started coming and it started growing. We went from like having 3 or 4 guys and holding, you know, a session with just that, and then eventually getting to like 20 guys, 25 guys. Guys coming to me, can I speak next week? I'm like, it's already booked, bro. You gotta have to speak the next week. Like, for real. And it was awesome to see like all these guys coming up voluntarily, like no good time, nothing, and they're all up there just because they want to practice, you know, honing their public speaking skills, or they just want the vibe. Like sometimes guys go up there just because they knew we were up there chilling, having a good time, laughing, and working on ourselves, and they just wanted to be a part of that. So I knew early on, like when I started doing my programming, that I would have an impact on other individuals. Plus, a lot of us are, you know, we're men of influence inside, you know, those walls. We had a lot of time in. When we first came in, we didn't come in with we weren't Bible thumping. We didn't come in with a book already in our hands. Like, we weren't saints. You know what I'm saying? When we came in, there was a reason why a lot of us were in there, and unfortunately, that was the case. So, you know, after going through our knucklehead stage and phase, I feel like a lot of us, once we started to change our life and actually doing positive stuff, and other people, especially the younger brothers looking at us that looked up to us for maybe the wrong reasons, started looking up to us for the right reasons, because they saw a lot of us were supporting each other doing positive stuff. You know what I mean? So at that point, that's when I realized, oh, like just like negativity could bring you down and it's contagious, so is positivity. And if we, you know, charge that positive battery up enough, we could power a lot of individuals to do positive stuff with us. And it's a testament to what we're doing now out here in these streets, is a testament to that same thing that I was just saying, because look at all our guys, how we're doing amazing stuff out here. You know what I mean? And if you would have said that before, a lot of guys probably wouldn't have believed it, but it's true.
Okay, and then we have a question at the front of the room when the gentleman in the back is finished. Okay. Go ahead.
How you guys doing? My name is Tim Deal. I know a lot of these gentlemen. Was in MCI Concord with them. I see you can tell laughing at me already. I didn't even start yet. But before I say my question, just to kind of piggyback on who almost called you by your nickname. Sorry, Charles. Something somebody told me a long time ago: show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Look at my friends.
Hey.
A book for me that changed my life when I was 18 years old in Nashville Street facing this life sentence was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And ironically led to me being in the real estate business that I am now. Juvenile lifer, like a lot of other people that are in here, first person, on parole to get a real estate license in the state. I appreciate it. I just want to ask you guys your opinion on something. I know we spent a lot of time together behind the wall, but I never had a chance to really reflect and have this conversation with many of you. We know mental health is always something that comes up when speaking about incarceration, but we know how hard it is to seek mental health when you're incarcerated. It's usually like a traumatic experience, like losing a loved one or something like that would be the only way that you can get it unless you were like medically, required. And my question is, how beneficial do you think it would be if it was more mandatory coming in the prison system, especially as a teenager? And not only that, when you're in school, who helps you kind of guide you along your way? You have guidance counselors, right? Who helps the youth when they go into the prison system? Who helps them navigate that? Who helps them come home? Now, we have our good brothers who are working in the DYS system with TPP, right? But what about beyond that? Because somebody that's going to get sentenced to life without or with the possibility of parole, coming in at a very young age, can get snatched by the system very fast. And that can be a poison pill to others, if not for that connection back out to the outside world. So, if you may, speak on the benefits that you think that may have. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, mental health is needed. I think that there's a stigma around it, and that stigma needs to be erased. Because as you said, you think of, inside people tend to look at the people going to mental health as like, oh, they're on meds and they're, he's cooked up or that type of sort. But sometimes you need somebody to talk to. And depending on where you're at in your friend group, some of those people may not be able to give you the proper advice or be the air to vent because they may be lacking the knowledge themselves because they haven't, come to terms with whatever, So I believe that it needs to be, it should be implemented just properly. It needs to be implemented properly with people who actually genuinely care about the people that they're, tasked with helping.
I'm a firm believer in addressing mental health, but I don't think anything should be mandatory because at the end of the day, when you start mandating things, a lot of things go under the rug and everything, But first and foremost, to be able to address trauma is a big thing, especially in the joints, and then creating safe space is the biggest thing. And in prisons, it's not really the safest place to be able to address that. And that's where you're supposed to be going to rehabilitate, to learn how to take care of yourself, or to identify, the things you've been through and to address it. So it's always hard, for me, thinking about how I navigated through, all the things I've went through. And it was basically just having a core group of people that had my back and just always knew when to check up on me. And that's why, sometimes, being out here, it's there's a lot of survivor guilt. I'm still dealing with a lot of the traumas that, that I'm going through for getting released, And then, I'm the people that got me here aren't able to see parole because they're sentenced to die in there, you know what I mean? That shit murders me every day, But I know I got my peoples here that take care of me, look out for me, to make sure that I'm all right. But that's why I know that I have to keep putting on and be an exception or whatever it may be to make them visible. You know what I mean? Because they're behind the walls. They're still the driving forces of why we are the men we are today. And to say that they're not redeemable, and that's why I love when Manisha said that, no, we're going to give lifers, whoever, long-termers, whatever it is, the education they need because they're going back out of those classrooms into those prison blocks and those yards, bro, and educating and helping take care, mentoring the younger generation that's coming home. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to do. And at the end of the day, we know our jobs aren't stopping. People are watching us. Anything we do, you know what I mean? They're not, and when I say they, the power that be, whatever it may be, are not gonna promote all the good things we do. You know what they're gonna promote. So we know we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard at all times. Is that a way to live? Nah, not really. But at the end of the day, we know what we gotta do to get ours home.
For me, I think work-life balance, I think is very important, right? I think we need to always keep our mental health like at the forefront of our lives. And I feel like we support each other a lot, and that serves as something beneficial for our mental health, right? Because when we can, there are certain things that prohibit us from spending a lot of time together. If it's not like in an educational setting like this or a work setting based on parole. But when we can and we spend time with each other, I feel like that is therapeutic. Because one guy's sharing, his successes of the week or the past couple of weeks, and he's sharing what he got going on. Another brother doing the same thing, it motivates you. If one of us is going through something, like, we'll be like, what's going on? Like, we check up on each other. We text each other, yo, how you doing? If we're leaving somewhere and we're driving, yo, get home safe. Text me when you get home. Like, that type of, like, camaraderie from a lot of individuals who, like, we didn't know each other going into it. And a lot of guys in there, especially the short-timers, say, I don't know these people. I didn't come to prison to make friends. My friends are the guys who I grew up with. But what if you do 20-plus years and you spend more time with the guys on the inside than you actually did with the guys you grew up with? You know what I mean? You're actually growing up with these guys on the inside as well. A lot of us came in as kids. So we are growing up in prison. You know what I mean? So the fact that we are still supporting each other, I think it's amazing for our mental health. I feel that EPI tries to be as trauma-informed as it can be. I think that is also something that takes into account our mental health and tries to not re-traumatize us as much as possible in different ways. And we're always looking for ways, is this a microaggression? Is this something that could re-traumatize? And we try to stay away from that, whether it's language we use, whether it's, things that we support, things of that nature. I think all of those things contribute to our mental health because, like Kevin said, a safe space. If we come out here and we don't feel safe, I think that torments our mental health. But if we come out here and we feel safe, we feel like there are support services, resources, and people, which is the greatest resource of all. I feel like, I think that we can at least, provide benefits to our mental health. I think that mental health is a big thing where I don't think, there are instances where professional help is needed, but something simple as depression, stress, that's mental health, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that we could definitely intervene with and try to support each other as much as possible. So I feel like we try to address that as much as possible, but, mental health is new, and we're just starting to get over that stigma and just starting to realize how big of a role it actually does play. And there's still more to be discovered, but I think we do a lot.
Hi. I wanted to ask Kevin, you mentioned power and you mentioned politics. As part of your education, how has that helped you understand the actual process of changing laws?
Damn, Paul, why you did that? How has that helped me understand change? Just to understand, like, who has the monopoly of power in certain spaces, and how do I navigate it in a sense where it's like to be able to be beneficial on my end. Or at the end of the day, just to have a good dialogue in that sense, because when I know what position I play in that certain spot to affect change, and I know change is not going to happen right away, I'll play the long game. I'm patient. You know what I mean? But understanding it and learning how to identify it and knowing how I have to present myself or move, I guess, you know what I mean? And be able to adjust in certain situations, usually that that helps me because it gives me a certain type of confidence where I'm like, all right, you might have the power in the room, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna figure out how to make sure it works for me. So that was one of the best things.
You're gonna have to turn your microphone on.
I'm new to all of this. So yeah, my question, each one of y'all could speak to this. I think Charlie, you just kind of segue into it, and if you can, the three of y'all, if y'all can speak to the camaraderie that was built through the EPI program, and that was something that I noticed from cohort 1. So I'm a product of cohort 2, and that's something that struck a chord to me when I got to Concord, and I wanted to be a part of the EPI or the Tufts program, and that's something that I still see that bond and I still see that connection. And what I noticed, that camaraderie, but it was a camaraderie for good. So we know when we come into prison, we all have our quote-unquote comrades, but coming up how we came up, it was for the negative connotation. But I still see that, and I feel that, and I've been embraced with that from both cohort 1 and our cohort 2. So coming home to that and still being able to connect with that, I think that's something that spoke to me from the EPI program. And even the individuals, the brothers from the Tufts program too, my brother Kentel over there. So he can speak to that. So that's something that I would like to speak to.
Well, I segued into that a little bit and spoke about it. I'd like to know what you guys.
Oh, what kept our camaraderie together?
Yeah.
To be absolutely honest, I think it was just the humor, man. Like for the most part, you can always catch us laughing, like to break the tension in there, because things always got like so intense. Like we had like, we're talking about like, we're like challenging our not challenging our values, but like we're putting our beliefs and our things, our way of thinking, in a place where it's being like, not attacked, but like being, critiqued in a sense or whatever it is. So it gets hard because all of us got our own values, different beliefs, and we come from different backgrounds, different ages and everything. So the biggest thing I do, I just look for David, I just make fun of him all day. You know what I mean? Look at him, he's looking at me right now. Yeah, that's it.
Home run Baxter.
Home run there, because when things get too serious, I just start busting jokes at him, and then we just start laughing, everybody just start laughing, because he can just take a joke. You know what I mean? And it's like, you think about it, and that's what just really like helped us, it was trauma bonding at its finest, because all of us, the majority of us haven't been in school in so long, and I was like the youngest one in the classroom anyways, so it was always okay for me just to make fun of everybody. Like, they know, nobody gonna beat me up. They're gonna be, like, you know what I mean? But, that was it, and it was like just struggling together, you know what I mean? Pulling late nights, or helping each other with different materials, or helping understand, like, different things that we were reading. Like, some people were better at economics than in poetry, or dissecting a novel, and then we all just looked out for each other and always checked up on each other, which was like the dopest thing. Like, we'll catch Siraaj on the walkway, like, yo, what up, bro? How you doing? And then, or if they catch me, they'd be like, yo, what up? Like, ain't you supposed to be studying right now? I'm like, you're supposed to be studying too, bro. So it was always just like that, and it was just like so much love in there, which was dope. And then it took a little while. It actually didn't take a little while, because it's off the rip. But it was just dope, man. It's still dope. You see it. You see all of us still like this, which is crazy. We're all from different walks of life, bro. And like, it was still like this. We show up for each other all the time. And that's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest thing for me. It's like consistency. And I think that's what, if I ever had to define love, that's what it is, consistency. You know what I mean?
It was almost like a secret society, right? Like, nah, for real. Like,
you make it sound like a cult, bro.
I mean, it's a cult in a good way, right?
No, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
They said it was flavor aid, actually. But now you go back to the block or the unit, and your other friends don't know what you're talking about. They didn't go through what you just went through in that class. They're not reading what you're reading. So you have to look to your peers in the cohort to get a better understanding. We were in there joking. We were in there having heated discussions. We were challenging our ideas. We were learning together. And, the bonds were formed through the fire of the experience. And, there was some times where, honestly, I think every emotion was felt in there, right? Like there was laughter, crying, all type of, I'm not gonna say who was crying in there. It wasn't me. But there was all of that. And it became a place you kind of looked forward to going to because it was an escape from the reality of the everyday monotony of the prison, right? Where you're like, at least we're gonna go in there and do something. And then, you have excellent professors, wonderful TAs, and then, wonderful brothers that you're in there with. So the camaraderie was natural, and it was because of we were all doing the work. There was a healthy sense of competitiveness. Nobody wanted to go in, like if we have a presentation, you're not saying that I want to beat everybody, but you're like, I want to put on a good presentation. I want to show off what I learned and how I understood that. So, we made sure we went in there and showed up and put on, and now that's that. So we all wanted to make each other proud and make ourselves proud and continue to put on for the organization.
Right. And I only have raised that just because I felt that camaraderie from cohort 1 to cohort 2. And I remember all of y'all would always reach out to me like, oh, anyway, I can help y'all. Kevin, need help with the math, English, etc. And that's what I felt. And I still feel that to this day.
No, you know that.
So Charlie always called me, yo, bro, it's good. You all right? You need anything, just call me a couple days ago.
Right.
So
Word.
this is what the EPI program has done for us. It showed us a sense of brotherhood, a sense of love, and a sense of just being real and genuine and finding our purpose in life. So I just wanted to express that as well.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of take y'all back to the acting class.
Oh, Jesus.
One of the most profound things that happened in that class with us, and I wanted to kind of get y'all's sentiment, was there was a sudden shift when we did one exercise. And I know you guys know the exercise that I'm talking about. I want you to kind of like explain that. Like, what did you experience when we, well, let's go to Siraaj's point that there was moments of tears, right? But what did you experience? I know me, myself, listening, and just so for those that don't understand the context of what we're talking about, there was an exercise that Lindsay had us do to put us more in touch with our feelings so that we got us outside of our heads and we started focusing on the next person. And so the exercise was so that we could identify with each other, but also get ourselves out of our own head. And it was almost like a restorative justice, the restorative,
Exactly.
Exactly that happened. But I wanted y'all to kind of explain that. What did you feel doing that?
I can go first. It exactly felt like an accountability circle in all J practices. But for me, the biggest thing was, like, you always hear it when you go to the joint. Like people are like, yo, you have, like, you talk about your emotions, your feelings. You're like, I don't have none. Streets made me cold. Being in those classrooms, that's what I was gonna hit up on Richard's point too. It's like being in there gave me all my emotions back. Learning how to like name them and not be okay with them. I mean, when I'm sad, when I'm happy, when I'm feeling depressed, whatever it is, and it gave me that sense of control of just knowing that I have these feelings, that I'm not just always angry. So like it like literally gave me like all my emotions back and like gave me emotional intelligence and be like, yo, I got this. You know what I mean? And that was like the biggest, the dopest thing about that exercise too. And why it was, that was during COVID too, man. That was like, what, 23 hours and like 45 minutes in your cell, coming out only 15 minutes a day, bro, for like 6 months at a time. Like, yo, that was brutal. And then finally going into classrooms and having that and all that pent up just things you were holding in all your life right then and there. And it's like, how could you not help but have the waterworks out there? But it wasn't even just because you were sad or whatever it may be. It was just like, yo, you finally broke that dam that's just been holding you back. You know what I mean? Now you're just free flowing for the most part. And that's why I was like, yo, I love it. I loved it.
Yeah, that exercise, I mean, that was probably like my least favorite. I didn't particularly like the exercises. I just like getting to it. Just give me my role. I'm a natural. No, but that exercise, because she asked us to think of a situation that'll really get us very emotional, right? What was your direction?
Yes.
Something that's, you decide, a little bit of a risk, maybe in the vulnerability department,
Right.
to tell. And you're doing
Right.
it with a partner
Right.
on stage with you, and you're working off of, then you, after your story, you go back with your partner and work off their behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. But that exercise put our bond to the test, right? Because there were situations where I felt like the two guys doing the exercise were staring at each other for so long, you started to feel the tension. Like, hold up, this could turn into a fist fight.
Yeah, we will.
Like it was crazy. But she was asking us to get really deep and get really vulnerable, right? And to think of something significant to us. And that's a testament to how much of a buy-in she got from us, that we actually did that to the point where some of us like bawled crying because of the situation that we spoke about. Most of us chose to really go for something that made us really vulnerable. And we didn't probably envision that we would get that emotional as we were talking about the situation. But once we started talking about it, like a lot of us broke down because it was like we probably hadn't dealt with those emotions or those thoughts for a long time. In prison, you have to compartmentalize. Because if you focus on the streets every single day, you're gonna torment yourself to death. You're not gonna make it. You're gonna stress and die. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to compartmentalize and be like, okay, the outside world is the outside world. I'm in here right now. I'm going to focus on my life in here. Not saying that you don't think about it and you don't make plans or preparations, but you're just not there every day. You know what I mean? You're more present and you're like, let me do what I got to do day by day to get where I need to go. But that exercise, it really tested a lot of, it tested us, but it was a testament to Cohort 1's level of emotional maturity. I feel like Cohort 1 got like the best of the best, because when they came, but it was only right because when EPI came, there was a hunger for it. So there was so many people who applied for it, and that there wasn't no college for a long time, and there was a lot of guys who, were very smart guys, and the cream rose to the top when it came to Cohort 1. You know what I mean? For real.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, and then, but that exercise, man, yeah.
Go sit down.
One thing that I just will say that I found so fascinating about that day was, so I'd never taught acting in a prison before. I've done it twice now, 2 different semesters. And so when you're creating the class and syllabus, I was really just taking a guess at like, what's gonna fly? Like, what's gonna work? And so my guess was that all of the kind of games and exercises, you're a paperclip, you're a pumpkin, you're a refrigerator, which is how acting is taught. I was like, that's where the comfort it will be, not in this sort of like deep emotional stuff. And I got there in the first day and started teaching, and I was like, okay, I was completely wrong. Like, all of the stuff that required the total release of inhibition and basically acting like a fool was the hardest part. But the day I decided, I was like, okay, let's just see what happens if we really go for it emotionally. That's the day we got all the buy-in. And it was the exact opposite of what I'd anticipated. And you guys are all just like totally willing and ready to go there. And it was incredible, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, man. I echo that sentiment that it was real, and we didn't know that it was gonna bring that emotion out of us or anything. I think it was like she was referencing different styles of acting, and I think, was that exercise tied to method acting?
Repetition, which is Eisner.
Okay, so repetition. Yeah, so we to put you guys in the situation so you can envision it. We sat across from each other. So you had a partner, and then we sat in chairs across from the other individual, and then what the other individual would say or do, you do or say, right? So they can just say a word. You repeat that word in the same way that they did it. So we were going back and forth. It was awkward. weird. I mean, this is something maybe you may have done as a child or something, but we're grown men in prison. We don't do this, right? So, but something about that new experience and the awkwardness, or dare you say, the intimacy of it, it got you like in an emotional space. And like Charles said, nobody phoned it in. We weren't just saying, you might have some heavy stuff that you have to say that you've never spoken about. And I don't know, as Kevin said, like the overall condition that we were in, not only being in prison, but being basically in a prison within the prison with COVID, not knowing what's gonna happen. You're coming out the cell for 15 minutes a day. Even when you're in the hole, you get an hour. So you just going through a lot of different things. And the classroom became that respite from, the hell of being in your cell, trapped in there, and that claustrophobia. And brothers just, let go of the inhibitions and spoke on what was real to them. And it was powerful. We felt that.
So we are almost out of time. We just have about 3 minutes left, and so we'll take one more quick question, and then we'll have a brief break before our 4 o'clock panel. So anybody have a question? One last quick one. Okay, go ahead.
This is a question for all my brothers and sisters formerly incarcerated. What does it feel like to not be who they said you were?
Oh, hey, it's amazing, man. Yeah, look at me shining, baby. You thought I was gonna, you thought I was gonna fail? Come on, man. Listen, man, we don't want to be inflammatory, right? But look, when you go into that class, and when them CEOs didn't want to see you go to that class, because you was getting an education that they tried to say was free, we worked for it. We worked for it. We here because we put the work in. We're going further because we're putting the work in, and we got support, and nothing's free. It's all work, baby. It's all work. So it felt amazing, man.
For me, it felt reaffirming, that all the stuff that I speculated about myself, the real stuff was actually true, you know what I'm saying? And it's not that I never believed in myself, but when you're always continuously, being bombarded with a contrary narrative to that, I feel like it's easy to kind of maybe question whether you're destined for greatness, destined for this, destined for that, like that glass ceiling, you know what I mean? Imposter syndrome, what have you. But, yeah, my mother was somebody who always told me, I could be whatever I wanted to be. She always told me she always did that. And, I think after applying myself to a lot of things, like I said, I took an approach of self-discovery, self-growth, self-improvement. So I think doing a lot of that work, and then at the same time, our brothers, man, we support each other so much, and we all want to see each other win, that I don't even care about who says what anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's about us. We got each other. You know what I mean? The people who want to see us succeed are people like y'all that pack these conference rooms to see us speak and to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's enough on the positive side that want to see us win and know who we are to drown out the doubters. You know what I mean? And I focus on the people who got good things to say, not the people who really got something bad to say.
Just makes me feel hopeful, man, because we just know that, change is possible as long as, you have the right opportunities to be able to bank on it. Because at the end of the day, if you're just, out of sight, out of mind, you're not really going to be able to, show what you've been doing for the most part. And that's why it's just proving them wrong on every single thing and rewriting my own narrative, because I know I got the power in that.
Well, that was the perfect way to end this panel. Please give it up for our wonderful alumni, Siraaj, Charles, Kevin.
Y'all did y'all thing. Y'all did good, man. Y'all did y'all thing.
Okay, we're going to take a quick 15-ish minute break, and then at 4 o'clock, we're returning with another fabulous EPI alum, Mac Hudson, and his film, Mississippi, so you don't want to miss that. There's tea and coffee in the back, so please feel free to help yourself. And David says the coffee is good.